C. Murder, back in the news. He lost his appeal to the state of Louisiana. That's right. The state of Louisiana Supreme Court ruled that C. Murder was guilty and they were not going to hear his case for an appeal. And they voted 7-0. That's right, 7-0. 7 of the Supreme Court judges all ruled in favor of the state of Louisiana. That means that C. Murder, he ain't getting no appeal and he ain't getting another shot in the court systems. So the only way that C. Murder is going to get out of prison is if someday in the future, and it probably won't be in the immediate future, is if he can get a governor's pardon or a presidential pardon. And that would probably have to come with him living an exceptional life while he's in prison. And from what I've heard, because I know people who have been in Angola, and I've heard a few stories from people who told me who they knew him. They said he's a solid dude and he's not getting in a lot of trouble. He keeps himself clean and he's doing a lot of good stuff while he's in Angola. But I don't know that for certain. That's just rumors. Well, I figured I would make this video about C. Murder because he was in the news and C. Murder's pretty popular. You know, he's the younger brother of Master P. And C. Murder, who is Corey Miller, I'm sure I'm not certain, in Angola, they probably still call him C or C. Murder. But I'm sure that at this point in his life, he just rather people drop the murder part and just call him Corey. I know I would. I don't like when people call me my nickname anymore. Just call me Greg or Gregory. That's my name. But anyway, I'm at the location right now where supposedly this is where C. Murder caught his case. And I'm going to show you the location. It's right here in the West Bank in Harvey. And from what I was told from a friend of mine, the location that I'm at is where it happened. I don't know this to be 100% certain. I didn't dig into case files, but I'm going to show you where I'm at. And supposedly this is rumored to be the place where everything happened. And this was a jumping spot. Back in 2002, when the case happened, I remember passing this place up all the time. And sometimes you would come and there would be fights. And sometimes it would be so packed that you couldn't get past the main roadway, which is on the corner of Manhattan Boulevard and West Bank Expressway in Harvey, Louisiana, which is, probably about 10 minutes outside of New Orleans city limits, or probably less than that because Algiers is right there. So we're probably about 5 minutes outside of New Orleans jurisdiction into Jefferson Parish. And actually what's crazy is where this case happened with C. Murder, it's only about 5 minutes or less from the Jefferson Parish prison. That's right. Gretna, Louisiana is where all the people, that's where C. Murder went to jail. So when he eventually was being housed and waiting to go to trial, it would have went to Gretna, Louisiana, which is probably about less than 5 minutes where I'm sitting right now. That's where he would have went to jail while he awaited his trial. But I'm going to show you a picture of where I'm at so you can see where this possibly occurred or where this allegedly occurred, this crime. And we're going to talk more about it. All right, as you can see, this is the corner where supposedly C. Murder was on film running with a bliggity. That's right. They said he was on film, according to transcripts, running with his bliggity. So they's on film with him holding his gat, running. And obviously there's people all around here fighting and doing whatever they were doing right here in this corner. And in that building supposedly is the place where it was. And this is the corner. And this is Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. This is where the young man who I want to talk about, his name, the victim, Stephen Thomas. That's right. 16-year-old Stephen Thomas was unalived in 2002, over 2 decades ago, right here where I'm sitting. It's roughly in this vicinity. And he lost his life. And you want to know what the irony is? The irony is, according to testimony from the trial of C. Murder, Stephen's family said and admitted that Stephen was a fan of C. Murder, that he listened to C. Murder's raps. He had the albums. He was also aspired to be like C. Murder. And C. Murder is charged and convicted with unaliving, 16-year-old Stephen Thomas. And something I do on my channel, and I'll never back down from doing it, I want to be clear about it as we go forward with this video, is I always treat the victims with respect and dignity. Too often, we get focused on the people who are accused of the murders and we forget about the victims. A 16-year-old is gone. His family was robbed of their future, of everything that Stephen would have grew up to be. Maybe we don't know what his destiny was. He never had a chance to play it out because his life was cut short, tragically and foolishly. It was foolish what C. Murder was involved in, and we can't look past that. Listen, I don't blame Corey Miller for fighting his case from prison. That's what he's supposed to do. I have no issue with that. If I was in his shoes, I would be fighting my case too until the bitter end. Because if I was locked up, I'd want to be out. But here's the thing about the case that really gets me. I don't know, but because I wasn't there, I can't say. But he's convicted of the murder. So according to the transcripts and the records, he is a convicted murderer. He's a convicted unaliver of a 16-year-old. And if he really did do it, and which I don't, like I said, I don't know. He's tried to appeal his case multiple times. Obviously, he just ran into a brick wall. There won't be no more appeals in the state of Louisiana. He should have just took a plea bargain. If he would have took a plea bargain, do you realize in Louisiana for that charge, and he would have got his attorneys to talk to the family, and they would have said, look, man, I was wrong for what I did. Give me a 40-year sentence, a 30-year sentence. He would probably be out of prison today, or probably about to be able to get out. And instead, he may have to spend the rest of his life in prison. And we can't forget about the victims, Steve and Thomas. I'm telling y'all, we have to always remember the victims. The victims get forgotten so much because we like, oh man, he's been in jail for 20-something years. He deserves to be out. Listen, I get it. A lot of people who've been in prison for 20 plus years deserve another chance, depending on what they did. Not everybody, but a lot of them, I believe they do deserve another chance, especially if they went to prison and they wasn't involved in any other crimes. They didn't go to prison. They wasn't involved in dope. They wasn't involved in violence and fighting, and they did things that were productive to make themselves better. They were involved in courses and classes, and when they go before the parole board, there's something to show for it, that hey, look, I changed. And they're repentive. You have to be repentive. I don't know Corey Miller personally. I have been in prison with 2 Louisiana rappers, 2 on yards with them. I never communicated with them. I had friends who I was in the prison with and friends I grew up with who did communicate with them, but I never talked to the dudes. But I remember seeing them. I was on the yard with 2 New Orleans rappers, the New Orleans, Louisiana area rappers. And I know people who were cool with some of these New Orleans rappers while we were locked up. I kind of kept to myself, and that's just the way it is. I don't get awestruck easily, and if somebody doesn't talk to me and we don't have a reason to talk, I guess we just won't talk. But man, this is such a tragedy what happened, man. And it's something to learn. This is the lesson we can learn from this, y'all. Corey Miller, the time of this case when it happened, he was right at 30 years old, roughly going into his 30s, man. By the time I was 30, I had been out of prison for a year or so. And man, my mind was right. I wasn't running around with a bliggity. He still had a bliggity going in clubs. He had recently had some camera footage of him in Baton Rouge where he almost got into it with somebody, and I think he beat that case allegedly. But man, they got him on film running out of this place, this nightclub called the Platinum Club or Platinum Event, and he had a bliggity. And he was with a bunch of his homies, man. You don't have to be with your homies by the time you hit your 30s, man. If your homies are hanging out in nightclubs, you need to cut them off. That don't mean you don't need to be friends with them. You could still be friends with them, but do you really need to be in the club? Do you really need to be partying and doing all that type of stuff? You don't have to, man. We got to get our minds right. There's something to learn here from this case. He should have been home, man. He should have been with his family. Now he wants to be a family man from prison. He should have been a family man then, man. And his brother, you can't say nothing about Master P. What you want him to do? Master P might have a lot of money, but he can't just bond his brother out of jail because there ain't no more bonds. He done got all the attorneys. It's done. He's convicted of a crime. He can't let nobody out for that. Sometimes money falls short. And money's not going to get C Murder out of prison, man. So I just hope he's in prison living his best life. And I hope he's repentive. And because I feel sorry for the family, man. A 16-year-old kid, y'all. 16-year-old kid. Lost his life. 20-something years from now, that 16-year-old kid would be a grown man, possibly with children, going to college and getting married. His family was robbed of that. We don't know what he would have done or what he would have became because he never reached that moment. I'm telling y'all, man, we don't have to live lives where we going to nightclubs. Nothing good happens in a nightclub. I hope that this resonates with somebody. I hope you realize something, man. I hope you got something, because on the Pen and The Shank, man, I don't want to idolize and I don't want to glamorize a life of crime. I want to do the opposite. I want, there's a lot of stories, prison stories and crime stories I have to tell. And if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know that I don't do all the glamorizing it. We laugh, we joke, we have fun, and we tell the real. But We're not glamorizing it. This isn't what we want to become. You don't want to grow up to live a life of a rapper. And listen, C Murder lived that life. He's from the Calliope projects. And look, you had to be about your business to grow up in the Calliope, you know? And so, you know, he really grew up like that. But you got to get out. You got to get out. Lil Wayne got out. He's from Holly Grove. He ain't in Holly Grove no more. You got to get out from where you from. You got to leave the area, man. You ain't got nothing to prove, man. Man, y'all, we got to change how we think. And if you're a rapper, you need to change how you think. You ain't got nothing to prove. If you're a YouTube content creator in the prison and crime genre, and you still want to fight people, and you in your 30s and 40s, 50s, you really have problems, man. You really should rethink what you're doing. Seriously. If you're worrying about what this one did and what that one did, man, that's a problem, man. You know? But that's the case of Corey Miller, man. 7-0. Louisiana Supreme Court ruled against him. And he's going to sit in Angola or wherever else they send him in the state. And that's just the way he's going to live his life. In all likelihood, he very well may die in prison. And he should be praying, you know, because a miracle can't happen. But I think the first thing he needs to do is soul search. And I'm so sure over the last 20 years, he did some soul searching. And I do wish him the best. And I wish the family of Stephen the best as well, man. It's such a tragedy across the board, man. But this is the stuff we need to talk about. And thanks for watching a Pen and The Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. Give me a like and subscribe. Go check out my other videos, man. Let's get this.